Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try to start pretty much close to on time today. Both Councilmember Taylor and I have other meetings we need to get to if we can get through our business here. So we will be moving right along. As always, there is a general and a consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda will be taken as one vote unless anything needs to be pulled. Mr. Taylor, anything needs to come on?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that. Discussion? If not, those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. That passes. We will go to the general agenda. Today, somewhat unusually, it's all information items. So I believe that items G1 and G2 are principally owned for the information of Councilmember Larson. He's under the weather, but I understand he's watching on today. So if we could have sort of brief overviews of that, and he can follow up with questions as needed. Item G1, please.
Item G1, Sidewalk Program Presentation. This item was continued from the January Public Works Committee meeting.
Thank you. Ms. McCullough.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Good evening.
I will briefly give an update on the sidewalk program. A few topics that I will discuss will be the 2014 bond projects completed, unfunded new sidewalk projects, unfunded sidewalk repair projects, unfunded ADA compliance projects, and funding source issues. The 2014 bond sidewalk projects that we've completed today, there's a list of about 14 projects that we have completed. They are listed in your packet: Chandler Street, Gerald Street, Slater Avenue, Bethabara Road, Grassy Creek Boulevard, 27th Street, 25th Street, Old Town Drive, Robin Hood Road, Holyrood Street, Cole Road, Reynolds Park Road, Cherokee Lane, Old Vineyard Road, Bryan's Place Drive, Yorkshire Road, and Forest Drive. There are also about 4 projects that we are still working on. The list of projects which were originally approved, that list changed mainly because bid prices came in much higher than we originally budgeted for. As the market changed and the demand on our contractors increased, we had an increase in those fees, and that those costs are actually shown. The updated costs are shown on the next slide, which is the unfunded new sidewalk estimated cost. We have approximately 57 locations that do not have curb and gutter on a current list that we maintain, which totals an average of 2,000 linear feet per location. 21 miles of sidewalk needed in that category, with a cost of about $125 per linear foot. For sidewalk requests that we have along roadways that do not have curb and gutter, we have a total of approximately 147 locations, with an average of 47,000 linear feet per location. The cost to install sidewalk on those sections without curb and gutter would be about $450 per linear feet. That additional cost has to do with the need to install curb and gutter, drainage, and sometimes road widening involved with the sidewalk. When a property owner, citizen, or staff determines that a sidewalk may be needed, each roadway is rated. The rating is based upon the categories on this slide, which includes the street type, transit connections, posted speed limit, schools within 1 mile, pedestrian generators, connectivity, other factors such as if there's curb and gutter, or other things that might help the improvement of sidewalk be more feasible, and then community support. These categories were approved by this committee probably a year and a half ago. The higher the categories that receive the highest rating would be if there's a school within 1 mile, pedestrian generators, and connectivity and transit connections, since all of those particular categories would sidewalk enhancements would actually make those connections more feasible. We also have a category of projects under our unfunded sidewalk repair. Sidewalk repair would be things such as raised or sunken sidewalks, cracks in the sidewalks, spalling, damaged curb sections, or excessive cross slopes where the slope of the sidewalk is such that it's not ADA compliant. Our staff usually will receive customer complaints or concerns concerning failed sidewalk. We will go out and investigate it and prioritize it so that we can complete those repairs. In 2016, we completed a little over $176,000 of repairs. In 2017, we completed about the same amount, $176,000. However, we still have approximately 132 locations with sidewalk repair needs. Funding sources that we've used for either new sidewalk or sidewalk repairs would include CMAQ funding, congestion management, and air quality funding. The Transportation Advisory Committee, or the local MPO, actually has a call for projects typically annually. We will typically submit projects in that category. STPDA, which is another source of funding that's available through our local MPO. Those calls are typically every 2 years. Both the CMAQ funding and STPDA categories have a match portion that the city participates in, and that match is 20%. The federal or funding which comes through the state is the 20%, the 80% portion.
And just for folks who aren't familiar with STPDA, that is a category of federal funding that's distributed in part through the local government committees such as ours in the Winston-Salem area. Is that
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you. Another source of funding used would be bond funds. As you are familiar with, the 2014 bond, which was approved, which we were able to complete quite a few projects with. And most of those funds were used for new sidewalk installation. Very little was used for any sidewalk repair. Our operating budget, we typically pull funding from our operating budget to do any of the sidewalk repairs that are needed. The funding that we had, I think in the past, we probably estimated only needing about $20,000 worth of funding, but we've seen that the needs and number of requests have increased such that we've spent over $175,000 per year, but we actually have much greater needs to complete. We also have field staff that complete some of the repairs. And then development contributions. These would have to be related to any development that might occur and the requirement that they install sidewalk or contribute funds towards the installation of sidewalk in the future.
Mr. Chairman, I believe the motor vehicle privilege fee funds that come into the program flow through the operating budget.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question here?
Yes.
On the development contributions, it's probably easier to sort of spell out what new developments don't have to add sidewalk. I mean, pretty much most new development within the city limits does have to provide sidewalk.
Yes, most new development would. Who would not be required? If there's existing sidewalk there, of course, that would not be a requirement.
Like an individual house, right?
Pardon me?
An individual.
An individual house, yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The pros and cons for some of the funding sources used, just quickly, with the CMAQ and STPDA, because there is a match, there's also, one of the pros would be, one of the pros would be that it's a less cost to the city, and that's because it's the 80-20 match. But one of the, while the state or the funding source only requires a 20% match, because of the administrative costs associated with these projects, we're finding that the match usually is around 65-35 by the end of the project. The con, of course, would be that it takes more time because there are more regulations tied to completion of the project's approvals needed at every level, from if you decide to hire a consultant to do the design, approval of the selection process, the consultant services, the design through every phase of 20%, 75 to 90%, and then right before you advertise, approval of your advertising process for construction, and then approval of your selection of the contractor to do the work. And they also the state will also provide some inspections, and they do now charge an administrative cost for the time that they contribute towards reviewing all of those steps. So that's where the more restrictions come into play. Using bond or city funds, it takes much less time because, of course, those levels of reviews are not necessary. Of course, then it's more cost to the city because the city would be funding at 100%. And again, it's lease restrictions. So these projects could typically move along much faster. Development contributions. The contributions, of course, are restricted to the project, so we cannot accept contributions and then use it at another location. There's minimal to no cost to the city, and it typically is less time because the sidewalk is typically installed by the developer. There may be times where it doesn't make sense for them to install it if there are other roadway improvements that may come along, and so they will make a financial contribution, and so that may take a little bit longer. Or it's also dependent on when the property is developed. Kind of went through that a little bit quickly. Are there any questions that you have?
Other questions? Thank you very much. We
Thank you,
appreciate
Mr.
it.
McCullough.
And the next item, G2, please.
Item G2, road surfacing program presentation. This item was continued from the January meeting of the Public Works Committee.
And Ms. McCullough, you're up again.
Thank you. This this presentation involves the pavement condition update, and I will just give a quick update on our pavement condition rating process, the prioritization process that we go to for selecting projects for resurfacing, and other methods to be considered as far as modifications to the way we go about doing things now. The roadway evaluation process is based upon our pavement condition rating, our PCR. That is a very simple way of evaluating a roadway to then give it a score so that we can evaluate and monitor the condition of our roads. Our roadways are evaluated biannually or every 2 years. The evaluations are conducted by our field crews where they actually physically go out and ride each section of roadway and give it a rating. And the PCR rating is based upon a score where a highest score of 100 means that it's basically a road that's been recently resurfaced, down to a score of 0, which means that there's really no asphalt there. It's primarily a dirt road. And the deficiency on the road actually reduced the rating value from 100. I went over this a little bit on the last slide, but the scale is from 0 to 100. A roadway from 91 up is considered very good, and the scale or the rating goes to a roadway below 51 is considered very poor. Our goal is to have 85% of our roads rated at 85 or above. That's a very ambitious goal, but it's one that we aim for. And let's skip over a slide. I had information. Maybe it's coming along later. So our road evaluation process, there are 8 types of problems we typically look at when we are evaluating our roadways. These deficiencies include alligator cracking, Alligator cracking are cracks that basically you see in the pavement, and it resembles an alligator with the type of alligator skin type cracking. Block or traverse cracking, these are cracks that look like blocks in the pavement, and these could be due to changes in temperature cycles like we see here in North Carolina. Reflective cracking. Reflective cracking is basically when you've resurfaced a road and you haven't milled or removed the cracks that may exist on the old pavement, and so they begin to reflect through the new pavement. Another evaluation score would be for ride quality, and that's basically riding the road and determining the quality. So if there are lots of ridges in the roadway, then that affects the road quality. Of course, any of these other type of deficiencies, such as potholes, would affect the road quality. Sometimes the type of asphalt that was used, so if there's more gravel in the mixture, that will create a lot of noise, and that affects the ride quality too. Rutting. It's basically when you have the ruts in the pavement where lower sections, and these are basically caused by unsuitable material in the final layer and heavy truck traffic. Graveling would be a separation of the aggregate from the pavement surface, and it creates a very rough surface. Roadway patches. So a roadway that has a significant amount of patches would be rated much lower than one that doesn't, because not only do the patches affect the road rideability, but it also could affect the base, because now at those cracked joints, moisture can get through those joints and now affect the base under the pavement. And then bleeding is where you have a film of bituminous material on the pavement surface. It looks really shiny, and that typically indicates that you had a bad mix. So this was the slide I was looking for earlier, where we maintain 1,029 miles of roadway, and while our benchmark is for 85% of our streets to have a PCR rating of 85 or higher, we currently have about 48% of our roadways that are rated at 85 or higher, and 52% of our roads are rated below 85. When we're prioritizing projects, annually we will have either $1,137,000 or more that year for resurfacing, or we may have $2.6 million per year for resurfacing. The reason for the difference is one year we will use primarily Powell bill funding, and every other year we will then add some bond funds, two-third bond funds to the resurfacing funds available. Those funds are distributed approximately equal in each ward, so that sum comes to about $142,000 per ward in odd years, and about $330,000 in funds for even years. The way that we've been prioritizing projects are major roadways and collectors are given the higher consideration, and roadways that are in that category that have a rating below 60 are given even higher priority. Residential collectors with ratings below 60 are given priority also. And then we also pull in neighborhood streets that are added if funds are allowed to try to come to that total amount per ward. Major roadways which cross ward lines may also be prioritized or grouped together so that the contractor's not jumping around and we have incomplete sections of roadways that may end at the ward line. So one of the problems that I've identified with prioritizing is the current process doesn't differentiate between a very poor rating, which is a roadway rated below 51, and a fair to poor rating when we're looking at resurfacing. We typically resurface those roadways the same, where we will mill about 2 inches of the surface off, and then we will go back and add that layer of asphalt back. But when a road is rated below 51, it typically has more damage, maybe even to the base, and so the cost to repair is typically higher, but we do not include those base repairs in the current contract that we award. So we've got about 47% of our roads that are rated good to very good, or 85 and above. Like I stated before, 48 actually, and 36% of our roads are rated poor to fair, and then there are 17% of our roads that are rated very poor. One of the ways that we thought about trying to take these very poor roadways into higher consideration would be to allocate a rated score for each roadway, taking into consideration things such as roadway volumes. So your collectors and higher use roadways would have maybe a higher score. The posted speed limit, the PCR rating, of course, would be valued in, and it would have a rated score depending on where that PCR rating is. And also taking into consideration the year since last resurfaced. We receive a lot of complaints, and I'm sure you all receive a lot of calls too, that customers will say that it's been 20 years since my road has been resurfaced, or I've lived on my road for however many years and I've never had my road resurfaced. And so taking into consideration the last time a road had been resurfaced and rating, including that in the rating, would help with reducing the potential number of complaints. So as I explained, the final score to be used to collect from as funding becomes available. We would have an annual score for each roadway and roadway sections that we would actually create into larger sections, and we could project out when these, based upon level of funding that we anticipate receiving each year, we can project out when roadways would be resurfaced. So when a customer calls, we could better tell them when they can anticipate their roadway being surfaced. So instead of saying that we haven't included your roadway on the list this year and we've got it for future funding at some unknown time, we can tell them that we anticipate getting to your road within the next 3 to 5 years. The other thing that this would assist with is the number of very poor roadways would decrease significantly, because we would get to those a lot quicker, and that would improve the overall rating of roadways in our system. And the most important thing is that we could help with customer complaints and helping to reduce those.
Comments?
Any questions or comments?
Mrs. Colo, is staff interested in bringing back a recommendation for changes to the prioritization process?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there any objection to? I think that would be worthwhile. The hand went up from a gentleman in the audience. Would you care to step to the podium and identify?
I have a comment and concern.
If you'll give us your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Paul Macy, and the address for the road would be Petrie and Shadowline, for example.
No, actually, your address.
Oh, my address, 270 Carter Circle.
Okay. And if you'll be very brief, we hadn't actually scheduled this as a public hearing.
Right. Okay. My concern is when the patch jobs are applied to the roads, they create a raised lip, I would call it, above the surface of the actual road. Mm-hmm. So when you have vehicles drive through, you're getting almost like a speed bump in the middle of the road. So I don't know. I would think that it would be pretty easy to level things out, but I don't know. Maybe they're adding too much of the asphalt to the road to create a raised lip.
And by raised lip, do you mean on the edge of the road? Is that
no, just like going across it. For example, like on Petrie, right by Mount Tabor's track, there's a new build house, and they must have did some sewer work, and when they came through and added extra asphalt, they made it too high.
So you're talking about patches then?
Yeah, patches.
Okay. Go ahead, please.
Patches are not level with the road system.
Right.
That needs to change. More places than one. Also, on Shadowlawn, they did some work, and when they patched it, but then somehow within a couple weeks, it like sunk down a couple inches, so now you have a pothole where it was previously patched. It's not safe for drivers and their vehicles. It's not safe for cyclists. I would just like to see patches be done in a more, I don't know, better manner of like creating it level with the road. Also, I guess with the roads, specifically manholes, a lot of the manholes are sunken down about a couple inches, and that will create poor ride quality on your vehicles. So when you resurface the road, also bring that manhole cover up so it's even with the road.
If it's not even, it is evil.
Yeah, it can be, evil for your vehicle or a cyclist. It just depends on who's using the road at the time. But, yeah, I mean, again, it's all about levels. If there's a level, make sure it's level, and hopefully it doesn't sink.
Right.
Those are my two concerns, just from perspective of a road user.
All right, well, thanks very much. Those are very valid points, and if we could have staff take a look at those issues and how we're currently addressing them and where we might be able to do a more sort of effective job of following up on patches after a period of time, and make sure that sort of the surface level is reasonably skewed, but not skewed.
Yes.
Even. Thank you.
It sounds like you're in the Northwest Ward, you're in my ward. I don't know if you've tried CityLink, that to me would be the first place to call. If there's not a response, and typically they're very good at getting to those things, then just give my office a call. I'll give you a card.
And that's a good point. Anyone who has similar issues, please report them, and we'll see about following up on individual cases. But sort of the generic concern is well taken, and thank you for raising the issue.
I think the patching issue is due to contractors, typically, right? For new construction, they come out and they make a cut.
Yeah.
They come back and patch. It's not usually typically a city project.
Well, it could be a city utility crew that was doing work as well, but typically contract.
It sounds like something that might help would be a sort of a systematic way for back checking the quality of work on patching. So, all right.
Thank you.
Very good. All right, thanks. Other suggestions for Ms. McCullough at this point? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Look
Mr.
forward to seeing the recommendations. Okay, we have 3 information items. Let's go with sort of an abbreviated summary of the sort of the update on WISTA services. We may want to go into more detail on this at a later meeting. Thank you.
Morgan Simmons.
And this is item G3, pardon me, Winston-Salem Transit Authority Services Update. I get a little sloppy about having the title read into the record sometimes. Please.
Okay, Morgan Simmons is our transit planner, and Morgan will give this update.
All right, Ms. Simmons. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman and committee members.
Good evening.
Today I'm presenting to you the quarterly performance report for the reporting period of January 2017 to December 2017. We're going to start with the fixed route performance, just looking at Table 1, which provides the total monthly ridership for all 12 of the months. With the revamped system, staff did anticipate a decrease in ridership at the very beginning. However, 2017 did show progress in ridership increases, which we are very optimistic about 2018 data as we get it. Table number 2, that's showing the annual ridership for each route individually. And these routes include 31 weekday routes, 16 night routes, 17 Saturday routes, and 7 Sunday routes. Please keep in mind that this information is not including the expanded services that just went into effect as of this year. Table number 3 is the detailed outline of the ridership performance for each route during the 12-month period. And table number 4 provides the top and the bottom 5 routes as per the total ridership for all 12 months. As you can see, the top 5 routes that are performing at the highest level, they all have the extended services, night, Saturday, and Sunday. The bottom 5, the majority of them do not have any extended services which include, of course, night, Saturday, and Sunday. With the additional services that have gone into effect as of this year, staff is optimistic that and believe that they should show the same strong ridership performances as the top 5 are exhibiting.
Just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Table 1, we expected to drop off because of the change in the routes at the start of the year. It didn't seem that it had, recovered a great deal in terms of percentages compared year to year by the end of the year. Do we have any insight into why it continued to lag that long?
Just based off of the experience with other transit systems, it at least take between a year or 2 or more for it to kind of get back to that level of service that it once was at before. But I think with just the steady increases that it's showing that it's moving in that direction.
Well, I'll be interested to see the data for
Yes,
January and February when it's available.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Moving along into the TransAid performance. With table number 5, that's showing the 12-month ridership for TransAid with the comparison of 2016 and 2017. With 2017, we were well aware, going into 2017, we were well aware of the increase in TransAid demand. However, if you've noticed, when October hit, which was around the same time as the rate restructuring, there was a decrease where we're showing and exhibiting similar numbers that we saw in 2016. In Table 6, we see that the ridership information, and looking at it from a different perspective, showing that even though there may be some slight decreases in the ridership, there's a larger percentage of the rides that are being paid for. So actually hoping to gain a profit versus what's been exhibited in the past. Table number 7 provides the telephone performance over the 12-month period and shows the comparison between 2016 and 2017. This performance does show pretty much average trends and similarities for both years. And this is the wait times. Along with the system performance, you have information about the Bus Pass Mass Distribution Program. This is a program that started in September, and as of December of this year, we've approved over $70,000 worth of matched tickets that, and we have 13 organizations, nonprofit organizations, that are participating in that program.
Question about that. By
Yes, sir.
approved, does that mean distributed or made available to be called on throughout the fiscal year?
So that means that we, as staff, have approved that certain amount of tickets that the organization has requested. Now, they have to still make that purchase with WISTA, and we're keeping track of that information as well.
So they haven't necessarily bought all those yet.
Not all of them, yes,
It's
sir.
not a matter of 70,000, the 90,000 is already gone for the year.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And last but not least, as of 2018, of course, expanded services went into effect January 2nd of this year. Staff also worked in redeveloping and modernizing our overall system map as well as our route maps. And Route 100, the revised Route 100, will go into effect February 25th. I am open to any questions if you have any.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I have been asked by a colleague to bring G5 up next, if you will, please.
Item G5, Business 40 Mitigation Presentation.
Morgan Simmons will present that one also.
Thank you.
We have some copies for you as well. You can follow along.
Thank you. Thank you. And that's the sort of generic question that would apply to all the information items
Yes,
so
sir.
far, actually. can we make these available and easy to find on our website so that folks who are interested in these topics can access that? One of my recurring concerns is that we get a lot of good information presented in committee that is either difficult or impossible to find online later. So
Yes, sir. No
that
problem.
would be helpful. All those presentation summaries. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Go ahead, please.
Good evening again. I'll be presenting to you the Business 40 Closure Traffic Mitigation Plan. This is a plan that has been developed in collaboration with, obviously, city staff, WISTA, HART, and NCDOT. Just a quick synopsis about the project area. We are looking at a 1.2-mile section of Business 40 that runs in the downtown Winston-Salem area. The project is going to start initially in fall 2017. It is broken up into 4 segments, A, B, C, and D. Staff focused in on segments B and C as those would have the most impact on the transit systems. And so our strategies as we went through the analysis process and determining the specific strategies that would best fit the both systems, HART and WISTA, we focused in on those particular segments and developed from there. The mitigation plans process to date. We submitted our initial mitigation proposal to FHWA November 2017. We had a meeting with FHWA late November of 2017, and they gave us some information regarding the review and approval process. After that meeting, they requested a review period of between November and mid-January. After January, they provided us some feedback. And yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Pardon me, just one alphabet soup note.
Yes.
Federal Highway Administration. Is
Yes,
FHWA.
yes. So sorry.
That's right.
FHWA, Federal Highway Administration. Yes, sir. And after that meeting, they provided us some feedback and comments and followed up with a meeting in late January to kind of give us an idea of a little bit more guidance of what they were looking for, what they anticipated or believed would be approved, and we moved forward from there. As a result of that meeting, staff responded to those additional FHWA comments as of this month. So the focal point of the mitigation plan is divided up into 3 types of strategies. Congestion management, which focuses on maintaining and or enhancing the current level of service for the transit systems. Incentives, which are services to encourage new transit ridership and remove as many vehicles off the road. And marketing and communication, which is to encourage and educate the public about the mitigation strategies that are coming forth. As you can see on the slide, we do have that urban and regional focus kind of divided out, just to show that there's a focus that the city and WISTA will be overseeing, and then you have a focus that HART will be overseeing, but we're all working jointly together. With the congestion management strategies, staff reviewed over the impacts of not only the urban area but the region as a whole to determine the best strategies to propose. Within both the within both the region and the urban area, we wanted to ensure that there were opportunities such as additional frequency to ensure that the transit services are maintained at the level that we need them to be, but also park and ride lot opportunities throughout not only the urban area but the region. On the urban side, staff analyzed the WISTA system as we have a lot more routes that are impacted by this particular closure, but and we wanted to make sure that we identified those specific routes by segment, and so that's what you see on this slide here. In addition, we also identified proposed park and ride lot opportunities in order to reduce the amount of single occupancy vehicles that would travel within proximity of the closure site or within the closure site in general. From that analysis, we came up with the following strategies for the urban area. To increase frequency to 8 routes that are directly impacted, to propose 8 parking lot opportunities with express bus services, rehabilitating at least 17 of our fixed route buses in order to have the capabilities to have this additional frequency, leasing of buses as a contingency just in case the rehab buses experience a massive amount of mechanical failure. And just keep in mind, this is for 2 years, so we wanted to make sure that we can maintain that. On the regional side, they also wanted to focus on expanding transit services as well as offering parking lot locations and bus services to those areas that they believe were identified as of need. With our incentive strategies, like I indicated before, the reason for these strategies is to encourage new transit ridership as well as remove as many vehicles off the road as possible. One of the particular strategies that we wanted to propose for the urban area was the Guaranteed Ride Home program, which is to encourage new transit riders to utilize transit services, and they would have the opportunity, if the emergency does happen, to be able to access their car immediately. So that would be a taxi service that would go directly to their location and take them directly to the parking lot. They would have that ability to use that several times throughout the 2-year closure. Same on the regional side, they also would have a guaranteed ride program, as well as there was a focus on mobile ticketing software and support, as well as express pass and van pool opportunities. So this more alternative transportation opportunities on the regional side. And last but not least, the communication and marketing strategies. And the reason for this, of course, is to encourage and educate the community about transit services and mitigation opportunities during the closure time. We would have extensive marketing campaigns that would promote in a variety of different communication mediums, social, web, in-person, table sponsorships, different things of that nature, just to reach as many people as possible. Travel training and information sessions would be set up in a variety of different places, as well as we would identify different large employers in order to provide that information directly to them so that they would know that, or their employees would know that there are opportunities and options for them to be able to get to work down in the downtown area when that happens. And of course, call center coverage. We want to make sure that we are well prepared for the anticipated increase in call volumes that may happen during this time. With the regional focus, them too also wanted to focus on marketing campaigns, extensive and different marketing campaigns, as well as a focus on the regional rideshare campaign to better promote alternative transportation options that will be available during this time. With all the strategies we are requesting, as you can see, we have the urban area strategies that sum up to be $8.3 million, a little over $8.3 million, and the regional area strategies that are a little over $5 million. These are 100% reimbursable funds that are being requested. The next steps in this process will include FHWA's approval of this plan, which we hope to happen between now and March of 2018, the development and execution of contracts, which would be a contract with the city and the state. Of course, if the contracts get involved, we would bring this item back to council for approval. After the execution of the contracts, we would begin with executing the different strategies and preparing for the closure. When Business 40 happens, we will continue with those strategies and those particular preparations, but also we will be doing ongoing coordination with all the triad partners, being PART, VISTA City, and NCDOT, because we want to make sure that these strategies are working and that we are being cost effective with this money that we've been granted. I've given you a lot right now, and so if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Do we have any insight on how much of that we think we're likely to get? Do we anticipate a realistic shot at getting the entire amount?
Considering that we've met with FHWA several times, they've been giving us a lot of feedback on what they're looking for. So in the revision, we made sure that we focused exactly on what they were wanting. So we are optimistic that we're going to get what we need.
Very good. Other inquiries? Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. The lane and sidewalk closure permits guideline, is that time sensitive?
No, sir, I can do 2 minutes just to brief you on it, and all we're doing is asking for direction, and we could certainly take that direction over the next month.
All right, let's do that then, please. Item G4.
Item G4, information concerning lane and sidewalk closure permits, guidelines, or temporary right-of-way closure permit policy.
Thank
Mr. Chairman, the NCDOT, as you just heard, is got a big project, and that's going to impact us with all of the stuff that Morgan just went over. One of the other things that's a concern that NCDOT has expressed to us is that the roads that are surface streets that the traffic will be using, if they're not taking advantage of this great program, will still need to be kept open. And so what they've asked us to do is look at a fee structure for utility activities and other individuals who want to close roads so that they would be encouraged to not close those roads during the time when the when the heavy traffic is going to need it to avoid the Business 40 closure. So what we're proposing to you is a fee structure that has a higher rate for closing lanes, sidewalks, and roads during the rush hour, but still has a fee for closing lanes, roads, and sidewalks when this road project is underway. Be happy to answer any questions you have now and look for direction that you may give us over the next month.
And so basically, what staff is proposing to do is bring back some shifts in our fees for work that closes the roadway during that closure period of the main section of Business 40 to, one, encourage them to do it during off hours, because that'll be cheaper, and second, encourage them to perhaps wait if that's if they can, but just temporary shifts in the fee structure.
And also to do it as fast as possible.
And right, speed up, incentives for speed. Mr. Taylor?
I have no problem with the fee structure. I think it makes sense to do it, so if you're looking for direction, I feel like we need to move forward with it.
Let's bring back a proposal as an action.
Will do.
Thank you so much. Ms. Turner, is there anything else that must be dealt with in committee this evening?
Not this time, no, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. We are adjourned.
Thank you.